Good morning, beautiful people. It is Earth Day every day, but yeah, I'm outside drinking up the sun. Playing with light, and there's something I want to talk about today. And on my heart is forgiveness. Forgiveness. I was talking to the trees and talking to Great Spirit, and I said, what is it that I need to share about my heartbreak and the darkness? And it is this. For a long, long time, I was angry. And when I say angry, I mean the type of rage, a type of tiger inside that could not be tamed. The tiger was in control. When I died on a motorcycle in Thailand, it was 2017, the week of Easter, and it's my 7-year anniversary of being born again, literally, is on Sunday, the 28th of April. And to celebrate the gift of life, the gift of new life, I will be performing a native ceremonial dance called Wild Woman Dance and Release at Charlotte Boom Festival. It'll be at Camp Bend in Charlotte, 4:30 to 5:30 on Saturday, April 27th. I really hope that you can make it. This will be an interactive dance experience where I will lead us on a very spiritual journey of sacred prayer, release, howling and screaming, allowing our wild woman to come out, and then integrating. So again, Saturday, April 27th at the Charlotte Boom Festival at Camp North Bend, 4:30 to 5:30 on Saturday. Forgiveness. When I died on this motorcycle in 2017, I was unconscious for 2.5 hours. I traveled to the other side. I spent time with my mom, spent time with Source Creator, with the archangels, with various ascended masters. And this near-death experience propelled me onto a whole new timeline. One of the greatest treasures in struggle and in heartbreak is being able to see for yourself how freaking strong you are. How strong you are, how resilient you are. I was in the high-tech industry for 13 plus years and worked my way all the way up to the top, self-made woman, self-made man. And the last position I held, as head of global partner programs and channels, and had a lot of responsibility. And with my success in the high-tech career came a lot of money. I made a lot of money. I bought brand new BMWs. I had houses, property. I was very, very privileged, and very unaware of my privilege. One of the first gifts that I was given from the angelic realm was the gift of poverty. I grew up in poverty. I experienced having literally none of my essential needs met as a child, having to provide them for myself. Then transitioning to being a self-made woman and making a name for myself and a life for myself and 6 figures, in the high-tech industry, to, in the snap of a finger, my world came crashing down like a burning tower, okay? And so when I came to after this motorcycle accident, I literally came back into a whole new way of living. I couldn't work in the high-tech industry anymore. Literally, like, the hemispheres of my brain were disconnected. I was having incontinence issues and defecating on myself in my sleep. And I couldn't even form logical sentences on the job, And I remember this one aha moment. This one day, I was at work. I was working for a cybersecurity firm up in Fairfax, Virginia, and I was sitting in front of my computer, and my computer literally just turned off, went blank. I was in a very narcissistic, abusive relationship at that time, and against better judgment, I accepted help from this partner who said that they loved me and that they wanted to support me in my healing journey and that they wanted the best for me. And, I decided to believe this person, and I really had no choice. I could not work. I could not provide for myself. In this journey, this experience, this went on for quite a few years. My symptoms got worse. Again, it was to the point where I couldn't even operate a computer without, I had this, it was almost as if a freight train was going off inside my brain. And in my various vision quests and my various journeys out in nature, I was shown that I needed to disconnect completely from technology and get out in nature. And so I started to do that, and I started to heal in nature. Fast forward, as I progressed on my spiritual healing journey, and I woke up every morning at 4 a.m. just to escape the hell that I was living in, to find a moment of silence, a couple hours I got in the morning before my partner woke up. And I'd go into deep prayer, meditation, kundalini, breath work, and yoga. I started doing various vocal toning practices, and this was my life force. This was my medicine every single day. I went to Western doctors. I went to neurologists. I searched everywhere. I got all the brain scans, all the tests to say, yes, you have a traumatic brain injury, and sorry, Charlie, we don't know how to help you. So I took matters into my own hands. So I was experiencing complicated PTSD from my childhood. Packed on top of that was my mother's murder. Packed on top of that was a marriage where my wife decided to have an intramarital affair and lie about it for a really long time. And I'm not saying that I was perfect by any means, but I'm just trying to paint a picture here of all the trauma I was dealing with, right? So childhood trauma, familial sex trafficking. Then on top of that was dying on the back of a motorcycle in Thailand, having a traumatic brain injury. Packed on top of my mother's murder and the trauma around her disappearance and lack of justice and lack of accountability from the sheriffs and court systems, okay? And then I found myself in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, physically, emotionally, financially, sexually. So here I was with all the odds stacked against me. How in the world does one find their way out? The first step came with speaking my truth to my family. I was shown a vision on a vision quest out in the wilderness. I was shown a Buddhist monk in a boat, and he was going down a river, and mountains were in the background, and there was lightning and thunder and smoke everywhere. And he was heading towards a cliff, waterfall, right? Think Niagara Falls times 10, okay? And the vision that I saw is that he had no oar. And he was just flowing down the river heading towards this cliff, okay? And so that was one of my first big visions of I needed to rescue myself and take my power back from the narcissistic relationship that I was in. I was also shown a vision of two paths. One path was if I stayed in the relationship, although financially my bills are being paid, none of my emotional needs are being met. I was being abused daily. And if I continued down that path, I would marry the same type of person that abused me my whole childhood. And I would continue the generational trauma. I would actually root it down even more and do a huge disservice to my ancestors and my whole generational line. The second path I was shown was freeing myself and doing the hardest, taking the first step of 10,000 steps towards a life of my dreams, which was waking up and disappearing from that life, literally walking away from everything, walking away from my home, walking away from financial support, walking away from insurance, walking away from the only family member I really had at that time, because when I came forward with my truth to my siblings about my stepfather sexually abusing me as a child, one of the first things that they said to me was, "What's your number? What's your number, Abby? What's your number so we can pay you off to stay quiet and disappear from our lives forever?" But I had already seen this vision in the wilderness. And regardless of knowing that I would speak my truth, I would lose my entire family, siblings, friends who said they were friends my entire life, people I've known my entire life, my partner, financial support, my home, all this. Regardless of that, I chose self-love for the first time in my life. And that's really what it was, an act of self-preservation. For the first time, standing up for myself as a grown-ass adult and saying, I choose me. I choose me this time. And it doesn't matter what any of you fucking say, because I choose me, and I know what my purpose is in this world, and I know my value, and God has shown me the end of the path if I choose to walk with them. If I choose to walk the path of life, I know what the ending is, and so I choose me, and I choose my connection to God and to Spirit. So when I decided to wake up, pack my bags, and walk away from this abusive relationship, I knew I'd lose my home. I couldn't pay the mortgage. I was already a year behind. I had, I knew I was going to lose my home and I'd be homeless. I didn't know how it would work out, but I was in need of love. I was in need of support. I was in need of care and concern and compassion. Homemade meals, space to heal, tenderness, acceptance. But everywhere I looked, I found crickets and silence. The people who I thought would be with me to the end of my life vanished. They disappeared. Sorry, Abby, we can't help you. Sorry, Abby, we can't help you. Not only that, but my family attempted a coup on me, and it involved my ex. It involved my best friend, who was best man at my wedding. Involved a lot of people who were conspiring to bring me down, literally. And I will say this: you never forget the face of a person who, when the world had your back up against the wall, they took their boot and put it on the back of your head. You will never forget that person's face. You will never forget that person's name. You will never forget the feeling of how it felt to be on the bridge while it was burning to the ground, and those faces dousing the bridge, dousing you with kerosene and tossing matches. You will never forget. So I decided to create a monastery in my home, right? And I was shown in the wilderness in Colorado by my ancestors how to collect and forage for crystals. And so I had over 500 pounds of crystals, created this monastery, and I was surviving by selling my belongings. I had a weekly budget of $40 a week for food. In the middle of the night, one night, my ex, who was hell-bent on destroying me and causing as much pain as possible, called the bank behind my back and it paid off my truck note. She paid $30,000. She impersonated me to the bank, paid $30,000 to pay off his bank note so that she could steal the truck and leave me without a vehicle, knowing all this, right? I had just confronted my family and my stepfather of the abuse that had happened, my mother's murder. I was experiencing a traumatic brain injury, toppled with complex PTSD. All that, I could not work. All this, and when I left her and I chose myself, she decided to try and inflict as much harm as possible. And so one night, it was 2:30 in the morning. My ancestors, they always wake me up and give me a heads up, but this is one thing that I was not meant to stop because it was meant to happen. And I walked outside 2:30 in the morning and I watched a tow truck hook my pickup truck to the back of the bed and tow it off in the middle of the night. The day before, that day actually, I went out and I detailed the truck and got all my belongings out because I knew it was coming. But there's nothing like watching your vehicle be towed out of your front driveway by the person who said they would never hurt you, and the person who said that they loved you so much. And so all this was happening, right? This amount of swords in my back where I lost count at this point. So the trauma from that and the anger, what did I do with it? Again, I had two choices. One road was I could be just like them. I could mirror back to these people who are human beings and, they were doing the best that they could with what they knew. And I could be just like them and hurt them back and get revenge. I'm a very smart person, I could have done that. I could have hurt them very badly. Or I could take all that energy and all that power and turn it inward. And instead of continuing to be hooked up to the siphon hose of narcissists and abusers and selfish motherfuckers, I could take that hose back and plug it into myself and say, no more. It stops with me. And so that's what I did. One by one, they all fell down. One by one, they all vanished. And I just kept saying, peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with you. Because karma is real. Everything's energy. And so whatever we give to another person, we're giving to ourselves. And it's a boomerang effect. So instead of hurting people, I started doing yoga. Instead of hurting people, I shut myself out from the world and created a monastery in my home for a year. Instead of hurting people, I started dancing and singing again. Instead of hurting people, I started sitting out in nature and meditating for 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. Instead of hurting people, I started caring about myself. Instead of hurting people, I started writing daily affirmations and doing mirror work and telling myself how much I was loved. When every single person in my life abandoned me, I was there for me. God was there for me. The ascended masters were there for me. The archangels were there for me. I was never alone. And so instead of hurting people, I started loving myself. And then from there, I started, what is forgiveness? The first step of forgiveness, and the most important part of forgiveness is this. We don't need to have communication. We do not need to verbally say anything to people who have abused us and hurt us for forgiveness. Forgiveness, everything, right? As above, so below. So everything starts on the inside before it comes on the outside. And I was showing this. And it starts with forgiving ourselves. How did I do that? I like to call it DNA time travel. How do we heal the past? We have to time travel. And scientifically, the way we do that is by traversing and regressing back down the helix, the double helix. And so each day, I would go into prayer, meditation, and I would ask, show me what I need. Show me what I need to unravel today. Show me what I need, what energy, what period of time, what moment in time I need to energetically tap into, become again, so that I can release it from my cells, the DNA, okay? And so think about it, right? I'm 43 years old. Think about it, just in one day's time, right? Every experience every single moment, I'm having an energetic experience. I'm having thoughts, emotions, and feelings, chemical reactions, electrical reactions. All of this is being stored in the DNA. We are computers. Think about it. It's like a letter is being typed on the keyboard for every single thought, every single experience. And so each day, it's like I had to go onto my computer, open up the computer file, the folder. Okay. So, like for example, for 1 month, it was the folder of family and the folder of abandonment, daddy issues, mommy issues. And so I would go into deep meditation, trance. First, I would alchemize, and I would get myself in a state of calm and center. Then I would alchemize. I would use my voice, my fire breathing, kundalini breathing, movement, whatever I could to get my internal engines roaring, okay? That's what the alchemists know how to do. They know how to stoke the fire to be able to burn away and time travel. And so I'd do that. I'd get my fire going, right? I'm cooking in the kitchen. And I would go back in time. And how did I do that? By traversing my helix, the double helix, the DNA, to get to those energetic files. And so when I would get into the file, I would stay in that file as long as I needed to until I was able to transform the energy from sadness, anger, rage, grief, right? The lowest vibrating emotions, right? And so I would stay in it, literally going to hell every day in a handbag. Actually my saddle, but going to hell every day in my saddle, my boots on, going to war, internal war. And so I'd work at that file system, those corrupted files, and I would search for bugs, literally, emotional bugs. Where is the corruption in this file? Where did it get corrupted? How old was I at what point in time? And so I was time traveling daily, energetically, astrally, metaphysically, quantumly, in 3D, in the physical. So on all levels of consciousness, I was time traveling. So I get to these files and I would alchemize, I would transform the energy, because everything is energy. Emotions, thoughts, experiences, everything is energy. I'm energy, you're energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So how do we transform ourselves? We have to transform at the energetic level, at the DNA level, at where it was stored in our body, to debug, rewrite, refile. Okay? Any software engineer is very familiar with this process when they're writing code. So that's what I would do. And the forgiveness that I came to was, when you're in it, when your throat has been slit and you're gouging blood and your legs don't work anymore and it's like you've been dropped in the middle of the jungle with no clothes and no weapons and no tools, and you're starving, metaphorically and literally, and you can't really think at a higher level until you clear out that energy. But so what I did instead of hurting people was I love myself. I forgave myself. And it's not for the faint of heart. And one of the biggest reasons that I set this course is because of my purpose here in the world. And it is to be able to show the world what we're capable of when we go into the dark shadows of the soul, when we go there. And secondly, that trauma is not stored at the soul level. It's stored the physical level in our cells. And so all trauma can be healed. So instead of hurting people, I started doing yoga, started alchemizing and becoming my own magician and feeling the pain. I was sober at this point, and I started drinking when I was 12 to be able to cope with my environment. And so think about all the file systems of all the days, of all the weeks, of all the months, of all the years, all the backlog, emotional backlog I had to go through in my journey. I had to clear it all first before arriving at I am worthy of love. I love myself. I have a purpose. I realize that I've made many mistakes in my life. I'm not perfect. I have flaws. I have hurt people very badly. I've done things I regret. I had regretted, but now, let me take that back. I've done things that I had lived in regret with for a long time because I was taught to feel shame and to keep myself stuck in this repetitive cycle, of depression. But what I was shown is that every experience is a teacher, and it's up to us to decide. We have the choice, okay? The only thing we can control in life is how we choose to respond to life. So I had the choice of how I was going to respond to every file I opened. What was a new program I wanted to write for myself? It was a new program I wanted to store away after I had gone through all the feelings, the old stories, and the old emotions. So the choice is ours on how we respond to life. And so if every experience is our teacher, every person is our teacher, what I have arrived at is I love every single one of those faces I'll never forget. I have so much compassion for them too, because not everybody has the strength, the courage to jump out of a plane in the middle of a jungle into the deepest recesses of their soul to confront the tiger. And so I have compassion, and I have forgiven myself for continuing to give my power away, give my energy away to those who are unable to see my light, to those who are unable to see their own light, to those who are stuck in samsara and cycles of suffering. So I can say, I love you, brother. I love you, sister. I love you, partners of the past, ghosts of the past. I forgive you because I have forgiven myself. And the only reason why I'm able to forgive the monsters that came in through the back doors and into my bedroom, the monsters at school that locked me in closets and beat me, the teachers who turned a blind eye and instead of calling CPS, sent me to closets and shamed me and mocked me in front of my peers. So the only way I've been able to say I love you all and I forgive you is because I was able to meet myself there. We are only able to meet another person in love as much as we've been able to meet ourselves in love first. So many beautiful gifts. Happy Earth Day. Love yourself. Dare to go to the places that scare you. Fear is one of your greatest teachers. It's also a huge clue as to the keys to unlock your heart and open it to the next level of love. I love you so much. Keep shining bright, beautiful people.